Hello, my name is Joseph Brown, and today I'll be showing off the duplication effect. So for the game, it is an arena fighter, and what we do is we go kill stuff, which, of course, is fun. And so what my goal was for this game was to make the characters have to find a tougher way to arrange themselves where the character doesn't have to stand in one spot or get bored with fighting one enemy or something. So I wanted to create the duplicator so that whenever a player sees them, they're like, "Oh shoot, okay, that person's going to spawn multiple enemies, and I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with them." And for the game, for the pillars, this works in really well because I have an enemy pillar, and having a unique enemy like this that will spawn multiple of itself after being killed is one of the effects that I wanted in this game so that the player doesn't feel bored and just like killing the same enemy over and over and over again. And so that's no good. But the the vision of it is to get the player to go into different arena levels and then know when to kill them or how to kill them or what they want to do to fight them. So as you can see, they're visual, they're green. This is what they look like when they are the duplicated enemy. And the neat thing about them is they have 100 HP starting, and so once you kill them, they will spawn an amount of enemies. So now this feature right here is spawning 4 enemies, which is pretty awesome. And each time you kill an enemy, you get jewels in the bottom right corner. You see jewels. Each enemy that you kill gives you the same amount of jewels as the first one. So that one only had 5 hits because at level 1, they only have 50% of health and they only do 50% damage. And also, they also give the same amount of jewels. So this is a great way to get a ton of jewels so that you can run over to the shops and buy plenty of materials or swords or whatever you need. And then for level 2, it gets a little more challenging. Still the base enemy has 100 HP. So when I kill him, it's gonna have the same thing. But when the when the enemies spawn, they're gonna have 75% HP. So now it's going to take 8 hits to kill them instead of 5, and and then they still drop the jewels that they're meant to drop. Now then, this is where it gets a little different for level 3. This is once you've hit the master stage and you're ready to go. And of course, introduction level 1, practice level 2, and then master right here level 3. So I'm going to kill this guy real quick. I use my insta kill button to kill him, but I forgot that it doesn't exactly pick him up in order. So for this one, when they spawn, they have 125% HP and damage. So they do more damage and they take more damage. So as you can see, did very minimal amount of damage here. And we'll take 14 swings to kill this one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 swings. So it takes about 13 swings to kill him. So the way that I want the player to interact with it is when they get to those stages, they can use a fireball or an AoE attack like this to do multiple hits to take down multiple enemies at the same time. But of course, when they're this strong, you might want to try to like get one of them out in the open and try to take down one at a time. Or with these guys, since they're so weak, you can just like AoE them down and kill them all at the same time. So that is the duplicator effect, and you also get the mass amount of jewels from killing multiple enemies. All right, and that is the duplicator effect. I hope that that makes sense. Let me just double check that I got everything. So yeah, And so, yeah, but the punishment, oh, I'm gonna talk about punishment. So the punishment for not killing all of the, like if you save the duplicators for the end and you kill them all at the end, then you would just have a massive amount of enemies attacking you at the same time. So that's going to be really challenging to actually fight, like, as you saw, 12 enemies, because it's a random spawn. When it's supposed to be 2, but again, there's a bug that makes it between 2 and 6, which I'm going to keep in there because I think it'd be kind of exciting to, like, you're fighting something and it's green, you're like, oh, dang, okay. And then 6 of them spawn, you're like, oh my god. And then you just get mollywopped or whatever. Um, Kind of like an unfair chance, but it could be fun. And yeah, so that's my effect. Thank you so much for watching and have a beautiful day.
Hi there, my name is Dylan Cole. I am here just to do a quick review of my mechanic that I've implemented over the past 2 weeks. So, I'm going to get into it right away here. Just waiting for it to open up here. Alright, and my apologies about the resolution. I have ultra-wide screens, so the full screen doesn't exactly work properly when trying to record. So just going to get into it right away. I implemented a buff and debuff system that will allow the player to interact with their environment in a few different ways, or be punished by it. So, one quick example I have here, it's the poison debuff that this archer will be firing a poison arrow. This is just our general test dummy for a lot of everything. So as you can see, I got poison there in the bottom right, and it's slowly draining my health as I also regenerate it. Now, I made it so that we have ones for your running speed or your movement speed. So as you can see now, I'm moving faster. If I collect the debuff, it cancels out. And if it's just the debuff, he moves at a snail's pace. Then we also have where it stacks, so the lifetime of it lasts longer. And this will be useful to help out against a player, like if you got hit in the foot or something, they'll get the debuff for jumping, or maybe in their knee, arrow to the knee, and they can't jump as high. Now, there's others that I have here. I'm just going to take some damage really quick. So this will be stopping the health regeneration. So this one would be like if there was something that injured the player in a certain way, or maybe they took hit from a blunt or bludgeoning type weapon, probably blunt. It would stop the regeneration until it runs out. If the player, for example, had potion that increased the regeneration, or maybe a spell can make it so that they heal faster. We have the poison effect here again. So like if you got hit by like 3 poison arrows rapidly, you get the heavily poisoned debuff, which, as you can see, drains health quite rapidly. Now, we haven't modified it yet so that it would kill the player or bring up like a game over screen once they run out of health from anything besides a sword swing. But that's up next on the chopping block. Butterfingers, this is going to be a debuff where if you get, like for example, if you fail a parry, you'll get, this is just going to be used to make the player drop their weapon or make them unable to pick it up for a certain amount of time. Like kind of like if you hit your arm in a certain way, you have like that tingle in your hands, and you can't really grab anything as tight as you mean to. The Midas Touch buff, this would be something, for example, it would be dropped from an enemy instead of jewels. It could be dropped, and it massively boosts the amount of jewels that you can collect, which is the currency. We have our mana regeneration, so if you fire, we have it set up so if you fire 3 spells, you get mana sickness or mana regen debuff. If you have the regen buff in effect when you get it, it cancels out. So it'll still allow you to keep casting spells. We're trying to focus more on the weapons side of combat instead of including too much magic, but we are still including magic as an option. That's part of why we have this overflowing mana buff here. While it's in effect, you'll notice that the mana doesn't drain, it tries to stay full, and my mana sickness is getting canceled out by it. There is a bug currently in place where it will not stack with the 60 seconds if you happen to have it at the last second there. Now frozen, this would be like if you got hit with like a frost spell. Stops all movement and turns the screen bright blue. Bleeding, this would be like if you're hit with a barbed arrow or something. And then on fire, flaming arrow, and I'm planning to make it so that like if you run into a character while you're on fire, it'll also spread that debuff to them. Or if they run into you while they're on fire. Now, when it comes to this, the poison, the debuff, they are both being worked on, or a lot of these buffs are interfacing with other mechanics like archery or weapons, like a bow and arrow. There's going to be different types of arrows that archers will be shooting at you. So you'll have you'll get punished for not paying attention to the arrow types that are coming at you. So like you saw, the poison will stack, and then you'll get heavily poisoned, your health will drain fast. If you are bleeding, it will essentially, on a heartbeat, like every 1 second where your heart would beat, it's like you're bleeding out. I know with bleeding it's not necessarily like that, but if it's something serious, almost like a gush, still need to add an effect for that. Now, when it comes to the rewards, it'll allow players to gain more jewels, like with the Midas Touch, or complete the arenas faster, or maybe outrun an opponent, or prevent themselves from being surrounded. Because by default, they do move at about the same speed as the player. So, between rounds, the player will have access to the apothecary, which is its own. They'll have access to actually shops in general. The apothecary is one that I believe that we could implement this with. Like, they could buy some potions here that would take effect at the beginning of the next arena. Now, if the player doesn't pay attention and they, for example, step onto a trap or something that would cause them being unable to jump or slows down their speed, they basically get punished for that because it cancels out their buff that they paid their jewels for that they just earned. Now, with the way that it is planned out for introducing, practicing, and mastering, we're going to introduce we're going to have 8 different rounds. The first round, it's going to be no buffs, no debuffs. So it'll just be the basic, except for the Bana Sickness. That one's automatically there. if they cast spells. But second round, we're introducing the attack buffs and debuffs. So um, we're gonna have there's a couple we're still planning to add, like one that'll increase your attack strength or attack speed. Ones that will boost maybe your magic damage, um, depending on what type of magic it is. Then there's going to be round 3 or arena 3. I meant arena. My bad. There will be defense buffs and debuffs. So, like your health up, um, or your health regen up, armor boosting, maybe armor decreasing. Round arena 4, mobility. Now we're still in the introduction stage. Round 4 is the end of the introduction, so you'll have your jump, movement, frozen. Now for arenas 5 and 6, it's going to be practicing, and then arenas 7 and 8, mastery. And then potentially we might have more, but um, yeah, that's about where we're at for it right now. At least with thoughts on it. Now with them, as you can see, there's a buff tray in the bottom right, and debuffs, green and red. It is a little overlaid with the jewels, so we'll need to fix that UI, but everything it shows, like as it slowly drains out, there's also a timer that you'll see there that is at the bottom of it as well. So as the game progresses, you may you may be able to buy a Midas Touch from the apothecary or another shop. You may be able to gain a skill that makes you immune to the Butterfingers through training. But that's about where we're at right now. I want to say thank you for watching and hope you have a great day.
Hello, I'm Anthony Harrison, part of the Gladiators team for the Arena Fighter. I'm going to be showing the mechanic I've been working on. So we'll be using test build 109. I've already gotten latest on this. Yep. And here it is. We're going to open this up, extract it, and we can get started. So I was working on the block and parry for the game. The vision we had was based on the design pillars we had: combat, enemies, and player progression. Combat's pretty self-explanatory. You need to be able to block some attacks in combat. It's very important. It will help you progress in the game if you're able to do the block well, as you won't take damage, and it'll help you defeat enemies. So here we go. Open this up. I can show what we've been working on here. Alright, so if you click the right mouse button, the player will go into a stance. That's the player agency, or more clarity. The player agency will be deciding if you want to go for the block or go for a faster option, maybe run out of the way or going for a dodge. So you get another defensive option. But if you hold it down, you will not take any damage. If you let go, however, you will start taking damage, and you have to time when you let go and when you click, otherwise you will take damage. So the reward is you don't take damage if you're able to time your blocks well, but you will take damage if you let go at the wrong time. You are allowed to hold it down, but again, player agency, maybe the attack's a bit too fast. You're not going to be able to block in time, and then something quicker like a dodge, or just moving out of the way and staying out of harm's way would be a better option. So it's up to the player to decide if they want to do that. And the player will be able to see if they are blocking. The character will crouch down in this position. They can move around. They will start taking damage. if they let go at the wrong time. So that will give them an idea of, hey, I probably need to move out of the way, probably need to continue blocking the attack because it's still going. And some attacks will be faster, so that's what the IPM is for. So in the beginning, you'll be, I guess, someone like this, where it'll be pretty simple to block. His attacks aren't as fast. And then you might have to block something like these arrows over here, which are quicker and might be harder to block at the right time. And that is the work I've been doing for the project.
Hi, my name is Timothy Jordan, and I am a member on Team Gladiators. The game that we're creating is an arena fighter, and what that is you'll be fighting hordes of enemies using various attacks, and whether that being physical or magical. During the sprint, I was working on the magical attacks and usage, where the player will have access to a variety of different magical spells. And how that works is they'll be able to swap between the magic that they gather, and they'll be able to fire it at enemies, or they could be able to heal themselves. But when they do acquire that magic, they'll be given a tutorial that shows them how it works and how they'll be able to activate it at first. But over time, they'll understand how the different magics are how they function, and the more complex or advanced ones will have different effects and variety to them that they can use in battle. But for right now, I have a few of them just to show what they could encompass. And when when the player does acquire enough magic that they can swap between, they'll be able to utilize it in battle. As combat is one of the largest aspects of the game, so it is a design pillar. And as Magic is a part of that combat, it does support it by offering a secondary way to fight enemies. So I'll demonstrate how the mechanic works. So first, I try to approach an enemy. Uh, I understand my computer is struggling, but I'll do my best to showcase the mechanic. So when I get near an enemy, I'll be able to target it. Oh, there we go. So I'll target the enemy, and that means that I'll be facing it while I cast magic. And once I do, I'll be able to fire something, whether that be fireball, an ice ball, whatever that's in there in the player's arsenal. And as you can see, once it hits an enemy, there'll be an AoE effect where any enemies that are within that will also take damage. The player will be able to see what enemies are hit because they'll have animations and sound effects to show which enemies have been gotten hit or are caught within that AoE. If the player does miss, the only thing they'll probably be losing is cost of mana. Mana is the blue bar that's on the bottom, and as you can see, it fluctuates. When using a magic spell, it consumes a certain amount of mana, and if they don't have enough that the spell asks for, then they can't cast it. but uh, the spell that I have equipped right now is the Fireball, and it basically explodes on AoE. I'm able to swap between magic as well. So right now I had it on Fireball. If I press another button, I'll be able to swap to the Ice Ball. And while the Fireball is like a basic magic spell, the Ice Ball has like a debuff effect that can slow enemy movement or even freeze them to showcase the different effects that spells can have. And I also have a healing spell equipped as well that I can swap to. And if I take damage, I'll be able to restore restore a certain amount of HP at the cost of mana. So I'm going to cast it. And as you can see, my HP has been restored, even though I took damage as well. And this is how the mechanic works. As the player acquires more and more magic abilities, they'll be able to swap between them, they'll be able to use it in battle, and they'll be able to change up their fighting styles how they see fit.
Hello, my name is Sabin Livingston. I'm one of the developers for Team Gladiator, and I have been assigned to work on the Apothecary's shop for our project titled Arena Fighter. The Apothecary's shop first makes its appearance when the player completes level 1 of Arena Fighter but before they officially begin level 2. It is a fairly simple mechanic for players to understand. Spend the in-game currency you've earned from the previous level, and in exchange your health is restored at the start of the next. However, if the player lacks the necessary jewels to purchase the health, they will be unable to make the purchase. The prices slowly go up as the player makes purchases, making it harder and harder to heal your fighter as the game progresses. It is also impossible to heal yourself above 100% of the maximum HP. If your purchase heals you beyond the capacity of your health bar, that excess health is completely wasted. The player has two options when dealing with the Apothecary: spend their in-game currency on healing between rounds, or leaving their health at its current level but keeping their currency. This gives the player agency in how they wish to approach the start of the next level. Do they heal themselves at the cost of their hard-earned jewels, making it harder for them to purchase other items? Or do they decline to make any purchases, and instead opt to charge into the next level weaker and risk being defeated in the arena? It's entirely the player's choice how they wish to proceed. The items in the Apothecary are distinguishable from other items based on its red, square cross icon. The association with a real-world symbol of health should communicate to the player that they may be able to use this item to heal themselves. If the player decides to be stingy with their money, they run the risk of not having enough health for the next round but will have more currency to spend elsewhere, or at a later point. If the player decides to spend their wages on health, they will start the next level with replenished health but may not have enough money for any other items such as weapons or armor. The player interacts with the shop and is presented with a shop HUD and multiple options for items. All items are described as heals X amount of HP and has a cost of a set amount of currency. Purchasing an item replenishes their HP but subtracts from their currency based on the cost variable. Also, the cost of this item increases, making it financially irresponsible to spam purchases of the cheapest item until they are fully healed. The mechanic is introduced at the end of level 1 and before level 2. A text prompt informs the player of the apothecary shop's existence and function. Between levels 2 and 3, the shop remains in this area of refuge, but the player is no longer prompted to visit beforehand. After some usage, the items gradually get more expensive, eventually guiding the player to master in-game defensive options so that the price of health regeneration remains affordable when it's needed most. There are 2 known bugs when dealing with the apothecary at this point. The first is that the prices do not remain more expensive when the player leaves and returns to the apothecary. The second is that another mechanic, regeneration, starts before the player has less than 20% health remaining and will heal the player back to 100% over time, rendering it pointless to spend your jewels on anything related to your health. Both these bugs are acknowledged and will be addressed heading into the next sprint.